Movie making is a risky business. It always begins with the financial risk, and sometimes the script calls for necessary, calculated risk to take place on set or location. Stunts, pyrotechnics, firefights, these are just a few things that bring with them an inherent risk when playing big-budget make-believe. Throughout the history of filmmaking, there have been more than a few tragedies on set. Some have led to abysmal productions and terrible movies, while others have served as catalysts to funerals. Here are 10 of the worst disasters on movie sets. Before continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest videos. Let's begin. Maze Runner: The Death Cure. The Maze Runner series is collectively a surprisingly good adaptation and one of the few outsides of the Hunger Games and Twilight to enjoy continued commercial success through multiple installments. Though they feature an ensemble cast, part of the reason why the Maze Runner movies work is because of Dylan O'Brien's charismatic lead performance, which makes it all the more shocking to discover that the third movie, The Death Cure, nearly killed him. Not because it was difficult to make, mind you, but because of a stunt gone awry while performing a stunt that required him to move from the top of one car to another. O'Brien ended up being dragged under the vehicle, was strapped on and suffered a concussion, fractured cheekbones and orbital sockets, as well as lacerations. Production ended up having to be pushed back several weeks to allow the 24-year-old to recover. But the delay was eventually extended to nearly a full year when it was discovered that O'Brien's injuries were more serious than originally believed. Fortunately, O'Brien went on to make a full recovery. Kick-Ass 2. It's easy to forget that child actors also need stunt doubles sometimes, and that the stunts they perform can also be incredibly dangerous. Such is the case with Chloe Grace Moretz, whose stunt double on the film Kick-Ass 2 was fellow teenager Tallulah Craig. During a fight sequence, Craig was thrown against a wall so hard that her head cracked open when it hit a bar. This was caused by a hydraulic system, which had pushed her a couple of inches too far off her mark. Thankfully, Craig made a full recovery and has continued with her stunt career. You can see her work in films such as Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and Justice League. Back to the Future Part 2. You may not think it, but the hoverboard sequence in Back to the Future Part 2 required some rather dangerous stunt work. Lisa McAuliffe, who worked on the stunt team that chased Marty McFly around on hoverboards, was uncomfortable performing a stunt that called for the team to crash into the clock tower after multiple failed practice attempts. McAuliffe's spot was taken by Cheryl Wheeler-Dixon, who was herself nervous about the stunt but ended up doing it anyway. Unfortunately, Wheeler-Dixon crashed into a pillar during the stunt and fell 30 feet onto concrete. She could have easily died from the fall, but luckily escaped with face and wrist injuries that were still serious enough to require reconstructive surgery. She recovered and went on to perform stunts in films such as Die Hard 2, Demolition Man, and Charlie's Angels. Titanic. Watching Titanic, and one would presume there were more than a few issues that could result in disastrous results. James Cameron is no stranger to forging ahead through tough circumstances, and he did on Titanic to impressive box office results. Still, the film brought with it many inherent risks, on the low end of what went wrong. There was a day when the entire crew and all the extras were offered funky food that left many with food poisoning. On the actual production, the ship model left many battered and bruised, with several sustaining more serious injuries, fractured face, broken legs, and lacerated spleen. Kate Winslet experienced hypothermia after one cold night of shooting and almost drowned when a wall of water crushed her in a hallway. But nobody died, and the film went on to break the billion-dollar box office mark. The Avengers. A highly sought-after stuntman in the comic book movie genre especially, Jeremy Fitzgerald has appeared in movies such as Spider-Man 3 and Logan, as well as many of the Marvel Cinematic Universe titles, while performing a stunt on the Avengers that required him to fall 30 feet off a building. Fitzgerald got his foot caught, which resulted in his head slamming into a brick. The impact tore off a large part of his scalp, but rather than go to the hospital, Fitzgerald just slapped a bandage on the wound and went back to work. As it turns out, Fitzgerald was incredibly lucky, as he was very close to hitting an extremely sharp rain gutter that could have sliced off much more than a piece of the scalp had he come into contact with it. Syriana. Some actors put themselves through hell for performance, and such is the case with George Clooney in 2005 Syriana. Clooney won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role as a CIA operative in the Stephen Gaghan-directed film. But that accolade came with a physical toll. While filming the scene in which Clooney's character is tied to a chair and tortured, the chair is thrown back to the ground. The impact caused Clooney to hit his head and hurt his back, but it was thought to be only a minor injury at the time. However, before long, the actor began suffering from crippling headaches that became so painful that Clooney briefly considered taking his own life. The situation also wasn't helped by the fact that Clooney wasn't in the greatest health at the time, having gained nearly 40 pounds in just 1 month to prepare for the role. The actor began depending on alcohol to get through the pain, but several bouts of surgery allowed the actor to eventually recover. Still, Clooney lives with pain from the injury to this day, and it's actually prevented him from accepting certain roles, such as Napoleon Solo in The Man from UNCLE, which eventually went to Henry Cavill. Live Free or Die Hard. Having worked on nearly 100 movies and TV shows, Larry Rippenkroger is one of the most experienced stunt performers in Hollywood and served as Bruce Willis's stunt double on the set of Live Free or Die Hard. While performing a stunt on a fire escape, Rippenkroger fell 25 feet and was knocked unconscious. His injuries were extensive and included numerous broken facial bones and ribs, fractures to both his wrists, and a deflated lung. Production was even temporarily shut down. So essential were Rippenkroger's contributions. Willis, who was friends with Rippenkroger, paid for the stuntman's parents to stay in a hotel near the one their son was being treated at, and the star frequently visited Rippenkroger at the hospital while he recovered. Fortunately for all involved, Rippenkroger eventually recovered and resumed working, even serving as Willis's stunt double again on the sequel to Live Free or Die Hard, A Good Day to Die Hard, in 2013. Fury. This on-set disaster is a bit unique in that the identity of the stunt performer who was accidentally stabbed on the set of the World War II movie Fury has never actually been revealed. What we do know is that while practicing an action sequence, one stuntman accidentally stabbed another with a bayonet attached to the muzzle of his rifle. The 35-year-old performer was immediately rushed to the hospital, was reportedly in good spirits the entire time, talking and laughing as he left the set, acting as if nothing had happened. Stunt performers truly are made of different stuff than the rest of us. The Passion of the Christ. There's a Bible verse in which Jesus visits a man by the name of Ananias and tells him about the notorious Christian killer, Saul, who would later become the legendary apostle Paul. He tells Ananias to go visit the hater and suggests, "I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake." We're imagining something similar for Jim Caviezel on the set of The Passion of the Christ. Jim was busted up when he finished shooting The Passion. He got the legitimate method acting experience when playing Jesus. For starters, he was struck by lightning while prepping for the Sermon on the Mount scene. His body armor failed to protect his ribs while being whipped, allowing him to feel the brunt of the blow from the Roman soldiers, and he separated his shoulder while carrying the cross. Wind. During the production of Wind, a movie about sailors trying to win the American Cup sailing prize, starring Matthew Modine, Jennifer Grey, and the late Cliff Robertson, stunt coordinator Chris Anderson suffered a freak accident during his lunch break. Anderson decided to sit on one of the yachts while eating his meal, only for another 30-foot yacht to collide with the boat he was sitting on. Following the accident, Anderson had to have his right leg amputated below the knee. Fortunately, Anderson continued to work as a stunt coordinator following the accident and has since served on films such as King Kong and Knowing. Thanks for watching. Please comment below and tell us if you like more videos like this or not. And also, if you like this video, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell